Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I had dreamed about this moment for years, the soft opening of my own little cafe, a quiet celebration, just me and a few close friends. It was supposed to be simple. I spent days cleaning every inch of the place, meticulously organizing the counter, perfecting my signature sandwiches and pastries. My vision was calm, intimate, a slow introduction to what I hoped would become a cozy, beloved corner of the city. But of course, nothing went as planned. My parents, who had promised to come, didn't show. Not a text, not a call. They were always busy with their own bakery, too swamped, they said. Fine. Brielle, my younger sister, said she'd be there. But she walked in late, way later than I expected, dragging along 8 of her friends. They weren't invited. The second they came through the door, the energy shifted. Music blared from someone's phone, and people started making themselves at home, tearing open bags of chips and bringing in drinks from the liquor store across the street. One of Brielle's friends cracked jokes about the decor. "This place looks like an Instagram ad," they laughed, glancing around the tiny space, tossing empty cans onto my counter. I had carefully chosen every little detail, but no one seemed to care. I stepped outside to check on a fake delivery that wasn't even real, just something to give me a moment of peace. But when I came back, someone had locked the door. I knocked. I waited and waited. It was cold outside, the kind of cold that sinks into your bones. 2 hours passed before a customer walking by let me in. By then, the shop was a mess. My display food had been half-eaten, drinks spilled over the merchandise. It wasn't the party I'd envisioned. It was a complete disaster. I walked through the front, trying not to cry. No one even noticed I'd been gone. Brielle was too busy laughing with her friends, too loud to hear me. There it was, my dream, wrecked, and I didn't even know what to do next. The next morning, I walked into the cafe with my stomach twisted in knots, expecting to feel something, some flicker of hope that maybe it wasn't as bad as I remembered. But it was worse. The counters were sticky with what I didn't want to think about, a trail of food crumbs leading to the cash register. The floors were stained, like someone had dragged their feet through spilled soda, and something else I couldn't identify. The shelf I'd spent hours assembling, it was hanging crooked on the wall, one screw completely ripped out. And the payment tablet, my lifeline, the one thing that kept the business running smoothly, was gone. I grabbed my phone, took photos of everything, every stain, every broken piece. I wasn't sure if I was documenting it for insurance or just for myself, to remind me that I'd put everything into this place and it hadn't mattered. As I snapped one last picture, Brielle walked in, like she owned the place, chewing on a muffin from the cafe down the street, the one that had been my competition. She didn't even look up, just grinned at me. "So, what's the plan for real opening?" she asked like she was talking about a movie release. The casualness of it hit me like a slap. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just stood there for a minute, breathing through my nose, trying to keep it together. It felt like the weight of everything was crushing down on me, but I kept my voice steady. "I had to sleep in my car last night, Brielle. After you locked me out," she waved her hand, dismissing it like I was the dramatic one. "Don't be dramatic," she said, popping the last of her muffin into her mouth. "It's not like you died or anything." I didn't even blink. I just stared at her, the bitterness in my throat like acid. "No, Brielle, I didn't die. But I might as well have. This place, this business, meant something to me. It's not just a joke." She looked around, shrugged, and grabbed a napkin to wipe her fingers. "Well, I didn't mean for it to go like that. It was just fun, you know?" "Fun," I repeated, the word heavy in the air between us. I didn't want to fight. I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't have the energy for her shit. I didn't have the energy for any of it anymore. I turned toward the counter and began pulling cleaning supplies out of the cupboard. "I'm not doing this with you, Brielle. I need to fix this place before I can think about the real opening." She didn't say anything else, just walked over to the window and pulled out her phone, scrolling like she'd forgotten I was even there. I let her. It was easier than confronting her. I worked in silence, scrubbing the counters, wiping down every inch of the floor, every corner, every damn stain. My hands moved mechanically, not thinking, just doing. I couldn't afford to think anymore. The thing was, I'd spent so many years being the one to show up for everyone else, my parents, Brielle, my friends, always the one who was there when nobody else was. And it was never enough. It wasn't going to be enough anymore. When Brielle left, she didn't say goodbye. She didn't offer help, didn't even ask if I needed anything. She just took her muffin crumbs and walked out the door like it wasn't a big deal. But it was. To me, it was everything. So as I stood there, scrubbing the last of the mess away, I made a decision. No more. No more letting people walk over me. No more waiting for people to show up for me when they never did. I grabbed my phone, opened my banking app, and started making changes. The payments I'd been sending to my parents? Gone. The shared account I'd helped Brielle set up for her event planning degree? I removed myself. I didn't even think twice. The numbers on the screen didn't lie. I had given them enough. I made a list, everything I'd done for them over the years, everything I had sacrificed, the money, the time, the support. And all I'd gotten in return was more broken promises and more neglect. Brielle's name was at the top of the list, but my parents weren't far behind. I opened my email, typed up an invoice, $1,920 in damages. A detailed breakdown of everything that had been ruined, everything that had cost me. No commentary, no explanation. Just a simple, cold list of numbers. I sent it without hesitation. No reply. Of course there wasn't. I didn't expect one. But Brielle, in true form, posted a screenshot of part of the invoice on TikTok. The caption read, "When your sister thinks she's Shark Tank." It spread like wildfire. I saw my high school friends laughing in the comments, talking about how ridiculous I was. The same people who'd never once lifted a finger for me. The ones who had always assumed I'd be fine. The ones who thought it was funny when I was the punchline. I felt the sting, but I didn't respond. I wasn't going to, not anymore. The only thing that mattered now was moving forward, and that's exactly what I was going to do. I didn't hesitate. I opened my bank account and canceled the small payment I'd been sending every month to my parents to help with the bakery's rent. They never asked for it, but I'd always given it. It was supposed to be temporary, just me being the responsible one, because that's how things had always worked. Me showing up, them taking it. That was the last time. Next, I logged into the shared business account that I'd helped set up for Brielle's event planning degree. I'd been helping her with her tuition, little by little, every month, thinking maybe it would actually go somewhere for her. But she was always one step behind, never following through. It felt like I was pouring money into a void. I clicked the button to remove myself. It was the cleanest thing I could do. No more dipping into my savings to keep them afloat when they wouldn't even show up for me. And then, with the kind of cold clarity I'd been lacking for years, I made a list. Everything I'd done for them, both emotionally and financially, over the last 5 years. Every favor, every payment, every sacrifice I'd made. The list went on forever. I had sent thousands in payments for their rent. I'd babysat their bakery when they needed time off. I'd helped with Brielle's school projects, even though I had my own full plate. And yet, every time something went wrong, every time they needed something, I was the one who came through. No one ever asked how I was doing. No one ever noticed the things I gave up to help them. I stared at the list. It was exhausting to read. And then, for the first time, it hit me. This was a pattern. They were using me. Every time something got tough, every time they needed help, I was the one who showed up. And when I needed them, I was invisible. I sat back in the chair and exhaled slowly. It wasn't just Brielle or my parents. It was the way I'd let them use me for years. This had been going on forever. With the same cold detachment, I opened the email app on my phone. I attached the photos of the cafe, the broken shelf, the spilled drinks. Then I attached the damage invoice, $1,920. It was the total for everything that had been ruined during that fun party of Brielle's. I didn't add any explanation or personal message. I just attached the numbers and hit send. I sat there for a minute, staring at the screen. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Maybe an apology, maybe a phone call, some sign that they realized what they'd done. But nothing came, at least not immediately. Later that day, I saw it. Brielle had posted a screenshot of the invoice on TikTok with a caption that read, "When your sister thinks she's Shark Tank." I don't know why it bothered me so much. Maybe because it was so childish, so dismissive, like nothing I'd done or said mattered. She had no idea what I was going through. She had no idea how much I'd sacrificed. But there she was, mocking me for doing the only thing I could do, standing up for myself. I clicked on the post and scrolled through the comments. Who does she think she is? Get a life. Elma. Seriously? $1,900? Get over yourself. Why is she acting like she's the victim? And then there were the familiar faces. People I'd known in high school, people I thought I could trust, liking and commenting, laughing along with her, making jokes at my expense. The sting of it was sharp. It made my chest tighten, and for a second, I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But I didn't. I sat there. I let it sink in. because for the first time, I realized something. None of them, none of the people in those comments, none of the people I'd spent years trying to please, were ever going to get it. They weren't going to understand the pain of carrying everyone else's weight while they acted like everything was fine. They weren't going to see how much I'd given just to keep things going. So I turned my phone off. I didn't need to see it. It didn't matter anymore. I was done being the joke, done being the one who always showed up and never got anything in return. And as I set my phone down, I made another decision. One that felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I was done. I had just finished cleaning the cafe when my phone rang. The number was familiar, and I knew exactly who it was before I even answered. My mom's voice blasted through the speaker the second I picked up. "Elma, what the hell is this?" she demanded. I didn't need to ask what she meant. Brielle's TikTok post had gone viral. Word traveled fast in a small town, and the damage was done. I braced myself, leaning against the counter, trying to keep my hands steady. "Mom, it's just an invoice," I said, keeping my voice calm, even though I wanted to shout. "For the damages from Brielle's party." "Damages?" Her voice cracked, then rose higher. "That's not the point. It's embarrassing. You can't just send a thing like that. Do you have any idea how it makes us look? You've humiliated us." I clenched my jaw. "You mean she humiliated me? I just documented what happened. Oh, don't pull that with me. You're making us look bad." Brielle's friends are laughing about it, and now everyone thinks we're some kind of joke. You can't just throw your family under the bus like that. I rubbed my temples, feeling the tension in my skull. I didn't throw anyone under the bus. I cut myself off, stopping before I lost it. "It doesn't matter. That's not what I want to talk about. I stopped sending you money." There was a long pause. The air in the cafe felt heavier with every second that passed. "What?" She sounded confused, then angry. "What do you mean?" "You're helping us. You've always helped. Your family, exactly." "I'm family," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "I've been helping for 5 years. I've paid your rent, Mom. I've taken care of things when you couldn't be bothered. I built this cafe on my own. And when I needed you, where were you? Not even at my soft opening." Her voice was sharper now. "This is ridiculous, Elma. You're being selfish. You know how hard things are. We're struggling. Your dad's been working overtime at the bakery, and you're throwing it all away." All of it, I could hear the desperation in her voice, but it didn't move me anymore. It used to, but not now. Not after everything. "I'm tired of being used, Mom. I built this place by myself. I did everything on my own. And when I need help, when I need support, you're not there. You want money, but you don't want to be part of the equation. I'm done being the one who shows up when no one else does." "Don't say that, Elma. Please, you're being dramatic. You can't cut us off. We need you, not anymore." The words were out before I could stop them, and the finality of them hit me like a wave. "I'm done. You've had your chance." I heard her take a sharp breath, then try to soften her voice. "Please, just think about it. You can't leave us like this. Your dad's barely holding the bakery together. We need the help, and you're the only one who can give it. Then he needs to step up, just like I did. Don't be like this. You're tearing this family apart." I didn't answer. What could I say? What more was there to talk about? There was silence on the line, and for a moment, I thought she might hang up. But then she spoke again, quieter now, almost defeated. "Just think about it. Please." "No," I said firmly, my voice finally steady. "I'm not changing my mind. I'm done." Before she could respond, I hung up. The sound of the phone disconnecting was oddly satisfying. I wasn't sure how long I stood there, but eventually I turned back to the counter and wiped it down again. The silence in the shop felt different now, empty, but in a way it was the first time it felt like my space, my own space. About an hour later, my dad called. His voice was softer, quieter than my mom's. "Hey, kid," he said, his tone tired, worn thin. "I heard about the invoice. Your mom's upset. We're struggling over here. Can't afford to lose your help." I closed my eyes, bracing for this. "Dad, I've been helping for years. But you never asked if I needed help. You never showed up for me. I've been pulling the weight for all of you, and I can't do it anymore. I'm not your backup anymore. Look, Elma, I'm just worried about the bakery. Without your help, we won't make it. I know it's not fair to ask, but I don't know what else to do. You figure it out. You built it, you keep it standing." He sighed heavily, and I could practically hear the weight of the world on his shoulders. "I don't know if we can do it without you." I felt a pang of guilt, but it wasn't enough to change my mind. Then you're going to have to learn how to stand on your own. I'm not here to prop everyone up anymore. There was another long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was smaller, quieter. All right, Elma. I hear you. I didn't know what else to say. So I hung up without another word. I stood there for a long time, feeling that emptiness in my chest. But this time, it didn't feel bad. It felt right. No more quiet support. No more bending over backward. I was done. I was cleaning up the cafe after closing when the door swung open. Brielle stood in the doorway, looking like she'd just walked through a storm. Hair messy, face flushed, eyes wide with anger. Are you serious? She snapped the second she saw me. I didn't say anything. I just kept wiping down the counter, pretending like it didn't hurt to see her standing there, like she hadn't just ripped my life apart. My school blocked my registration, she continued, her voice cracking. They said I owe them money, but it's not like I've got the cash to pay them. You took that from me, Elma. You've ruined my semester. I set the rag down slowly, taking a deep breath. I didn't take anything, Brielle. You used my money without asking. You didn't think I'd notice? Her eyes narrowed, but the anger in them seemed to melt into something else. I was desperate, Elma. I don't have anyone else. You were the only one who ever helped me, and now you're acting like I'm the bad guy? She was practically trembling, her fists clenched tight at her sides, but I couldn't let myself feel sorry for her anymore. You never asked for permission to use my money. You just took it. You've been doing that for years, Brielle. Not just with money, everything. You don't even think about how it affects me. You don't think about how much I've given to everyone and never gotten anything back. She stepped forward, her voice louder now, as if she was trying to make me feel guilty. I needed help. I'm trying to make something of myself and you just cut me off, like I'm nothing. I shook my head slowly. No, you've never cared about what I need. You've only cared about what I can give you. She looked like I'd slapped her. So, what? You're just going to leave me hanging? Let me flunk out of school and make me get a job? You're betraying me, Elma. Her voice broke on the last word, and I almost let myself feel sorry for her. Almost. But I held steady, my hands now gripping the edge of the counter. I didn't make you get a job, Brielle. You chose to use my money without asking. I didn't have a choice in that. You don't get to do whatever you want and expect me to clean up the mess. She stared at me, her chest rising and falling quickly with every breath, and for a moment I thought she might say something that would change everything. But she didn't. She just huffed, her face red, and stormed out without a word. The door slammed behind her with a bang, leaving the cafe feeling even emptier than before. I stood there for a minute, my heart thumping in my chest. The mess in my life felt like it was finally clearing up. But damn if it didn't hurt in ways I couldn't explain. But I didn't follow her. I didn't go after her. Instead, I locked up, flipped the sign to closed, and turned off the lights. The quiet of the cafe was strange, almost too quiet. It felt like I could finally breathe again, like I had space to think without anyone else demanding my time, my energy, my money. I walked out of the back door, feeling the cool night air against my skin. The city was still awake around me, but I was alone. And for the first time in a long time, that felt okay. I got in my car, the engine roaring to life, and drove home. It was a simple thing. No drama, no apologies, just me. I walked into my apartment, tossed my keys on the counter, and took a deep breath. No more family drama, no more being the one who always showed up, always sacrificed. I was finally free, and it felt like peace. I woke up to the piercing sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. It was 3:07 a.m., and my eyes felt like lead, but I still reached for it, half expecting some random spam message. Instead, it was a fraud alert from my bank. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it. A $2,438 payment was made to a college tuition service, using your saved payment information. My brain froze. I hadn't authorized any payments. My hand trembled slightly as I clicked through the app to check the transaction details. The payment had been processed just hours ago, but I hadn't made it. I knew exactly who had. Brielle. I had let her use my card information in the past for emergency purchases, but only once or twice, and it had always been on my terms. This was different. She didn't ask. She just took it. I immediately logged into my account to check my transaction history. Sure enough, there it was. 2 days ago, the payment for her school tuition. The amount was exactly what I'd seen in the alert. My hands were shaking now, but I didn't cry. I didn't even get mad. Not yet. I just pulled up the screenshots from my bank account and printed out everything I could. the charge, the date, the payment details, and my card information. The printer buzzed and whirred, and I grabbed the paper when it was done. I felt numb, but I wasn't going to let her get away with this. The next thing I did was pull up the photos of the cafe, the wreckage Brielle and her friends had caused, along with the invoice for the damages. I'd kept all of it, the photos and the details. I wasn't sure why I needed it, but something told me I did. I sat there for a while in the dark, staring at the screen and holding the printed papers. It was clear now. Brielle had crossed a line I couldn't ignore anymore. I took a deep breath, then dialed my bank. The voice on the other end was polite, but there was nothing polite about what I was about to do. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. I just explained the situation, gave them the transaction number, and told them I wanted to file a report for unauthorized credit card use. After a few minutes of checking, the representative confirmed the charge was fraudulent and that they'd start an investigation. My stomach was tight, but I hung up and didn't waste another second. I got dressed and drove straight to the police station. By the time I arrived, the sun was still barely starting to rise, the air outside crisp and quiet. The officer at the front desk gave me a half-hearted smile when I handed over the paperwork, but it didn't matter. I was doing what had to be done. I couldn't keep letting her steal from me, even if it was my sister. "I'd like to file a formal report for unauthorized use of my credit card," I said, my voice steady. The officer nodded, took the paperwork, and started typing. I couldn't help but feel a small flicker of something, relief maybe, at taking control of the situation. Brielle had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to pretend it was okay anymore. While the officer worked, I took a deep breath and looked over the photos again. The mess at the cafe, the invoice for the damages. I had a stack of papers in front of me now, my proof of everything. It was real. No more pretending. No more hoping things would change on their own. The officer handed me a receipt for the report and gave me a sympathetic smile. "You'll hear from us once the investigation starts." I nodded, but I wasn't sure if I felt any better. This wasn't over. It wasn't close to being over, but it was the first step. I left the station, the cool morning air hitting me like a slap in the face. The streets were still empty, just the occasional car passing by. I felt like I was walking through a fog, my mind buzzing, still trying to process everything. But one thing was clear: I wasn't going to let Brielle, or anyone else, take anything from me again. Not my money, not my energy, not my life. I got in my car and started driving, the silence of the morning wrapping around me like a blanket. No more ties, no more being used, no more being the one who always had to give. This was my life now, and it was time I started living it for me. The next day, I was sitting in the cafe, staring at the window, the sun rising through the haze of a morning fog. I'd barely slept, my mind running through everything that had happened. The phone rang, an unknown number flashing on the screen, and I almost didn't pick up. I figured it was the bank or some other call I didn't want to deal with, but I answered anyway. "Hello, Elma? It's Brielle." Her voice was unrecognizable, small, frantic. She was crying, and I could barely make out the words between her sobs. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice steady. "Brielle, where are you?" "I'm at the police station," she said, gasping for air. I don't know what to do." They're talking about charges, Elma. Please, please don't go through with this. I'm begging you." My grip tightened around the phone, and I could feel the weight of the situation settle deeper into my bones. "What happened?" She took a long pause, and I could hear her trying to control her breathing. When I used your card, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't think. I was just falling behind, Elma. I was exhausted, and I didn't have anyone to turn to. You were always the one who helped me, and I thought you would understand. But now everything's falling apart, and I'm terrified. Please." I listened, but I didn't feel the rush of sympathy I used to. The words kept coming from her, raw and desperate, but none of it changed the truth. She had crossed a line. This wasn't just an accident, it was a decision. "You're asking me to forgive you for stealing from me," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You took my money without asking, Brielle. And you did it knowing what it would cost me." "I didn't mean to," she started, but I cut her off. "No, you chose this. You chose to use my card without permission. You didn't think about how it would affect me, only how you could get what you needed. That's not a misstep, Brielle. That's a choice." There was a silence on the other end, thick and heavy. Her breathing was still shaky, but there was a pause now, like she was trying to figure out how to fight back. Elma, please. I didn't have anyone else. I've been behind, and I didn't know what else to do. I thought you would help me. You always do. Her voice cracked. Please, I can't lose everything. I'm sorry. I was desperate. Her words stung, but I stayed firm. I get it. You were desperate, but that's not an excuse. You knew what you were doing. You stole from me. And I'm done pretending this is normal. I could hear her sobbing again, more frantic now. Please, Elma. I never meant to hurt you. Don't press charges. I swear I'll do anything. Just, please, don't do this to me. I closed my eyes for a second, pushing down the feelings swirling in my chest. I didn't want to be the one who made her life harder. But I couldn't keep being the one to clean up her mess, to fix things that weren't mine to fix. Not anymore. I'm sorry, Brielle. I really am. But this is on you, please. She sounded broken now. I took a slow breath. I'm done pretending this is normal. It's not. It's not. There was no more pleading, no more trying to explain herself. She just let out a single, shuddering breath before the line went dead. I didn't call her back. I didn't chase after her. This was it. The silence that followed felt like a weight had been lifted. It wasn't easy, but it was right. I sat there, in the quiet of the cafe, the air still and heavy around me. I had no idea what came next, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was losing myself anymore, and that was enough. A week had passed since Brielle's call, and I thought maybe, just maybe, things would settle. But of course, nothing ever does. The sound of the bell above the cafe door rang as it creaked open just before I was ready to start my morning shift. My parents stood in the doorway, both of them looking tense, their faces tight with anger. It was barely 7:30 a.m. Elma, my mom started, pushing past me without waiting for an invitation. We need to talk. I didn't say anything as I stepped back, letting them in. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. You know we don't open for another hour. We don't care about your hours, Elma, my dad snapped, clearly already on edge. We care about Brielle. I felt a rush of irritation clawing at my insides, but I kept quiet. This wasn't about Brielle anymore. It wasn't about her sobbing at the police station, or the stolen money, or the mess they had made of everything. Brielle's facing charges, and now you're cutting her off? My mom's voice trembled, but the anger was still there too. What are you thinking? She's your sister. Yeah, I said, crossing my arms over my chest. She's my sister. But she's also a grown woman who made a choice to steal from me. I'm not going to keep letting her get away with it just because she's family. Don't be so dramatic, my dad said, pacing the floor, running his hand through his hair. Brielle's been struggling. You know that. You always help. That's what families do. They don't turn their backs on each other. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the words I'd kept bottled up for years pressing to the surface. Don't talk to me about family, I said, my voice low, but sharp. Because for years, I've been the one showing up while you two were too busy to even notice. I've helped you with the bakery, paid your rent, watched Brielle's back, and you couldn't even show up for me when I opened this cafe. Not once. There was a long, stunned silence between us. I wasn't sure if they were surprised or just unwilling to face the truth. My mom finally spoke, her voice softer now, but still full of the same familiar defensiveness. Don't make this about us, she said. You know how hard things have been for us. You can't just walk away. Your family, Elma. You can't cut us off. I've been the one holding everything together, and I'm done being treated like a backup plan, I said, taking a deep breath. You've always taken, and I've always given. You never asked how I was doing or what I needed, but you always needed something from me. And I was stupid enough to think that meant something. My dad opened his mouth like he was about to argue, but I wasn't finished. I walked toward them, stepping closer so they couldn't avoid me. You've forgotten every birthday, every achievement, every time I had something important in my life. You didn't show up for any of it, but you sure as hell showed up when you needed money, or help, or a place to stay. I was there every time. And where were you? My mom's face hardened, and for a second, I thought she might cry. But instead, she just shook her head. Elma, don't be so cruel. We're your family. Can't you just let this go? Move past it? It was like a switch flipped inside me. All the years of resentment, all the small, sharp disappointments, suddenly broke free. No, I'm done moving past it, I said. I've spent my whole life being second priority. You want me to keep pretending everything's fine, to keep helping, to keep showing up, but I'm not doing it anymore, not unless I matter. My mom stepped back like I'd slapped her. I couldn't bring myself to care. I was done being the one who always forgave, who always picked up the pieces. I turned away from them, my heart beating hard in my chest. If you ever want access to my life again, act like I matter in it. Until then, don't come here again. There was no reply, no apology, no sign that they were ready to own their part in everything. Just silence, thick and uncomfortable, before they finally turned and left, walking out of my cafe like I was the one who had done something wrong. I stood there, my hands trembling at my sides, but for the first time, I didn't feel a shred of guilt. I wasn't going to fix this for them, not anymore. The door clicked shut behind them, and the weight in my chest lightened, just a little. Maybe I hadn't gotten everything I wanted, but at least I had said it, finally. At least now, there was no pretending. The first thing I did after my parents left was block Brielle. It felt strange, almost too final, but I wasn't going to keep letting her break into my life, taking whatever she wanted. I deleted all our shared accounts, removed myself from everything I'd been quietly supporting. Her event planning degree, the bakery's finances, everything. Then I reset all the passwords to the things we used to share. I didn't even bother warning her. She'd made her choices, and now I was making mine. The next day, I reopened the cafe. Quietly, no fanfare, no grand reopening. I didn't need that. It was just me, getting back to work, but this time it felt different, like something was finally mine. I spent the morning cleaning, organizing, and setting things up with a kind of focus I hadn't had in a long time. And then my friends showed up. They came without me asking, ready to help. Sarah and Jenny handled the decorations, hanging new lights and rearranging things to make the space feel brighter. A few other friends scrubbed counters, swept floors, and stacked chairs. For the first time in a while, I felt like I wasn't doing it all alone. The place had been empty for too long, and now it felt alive again. It felt like me. When my 26th birthday came around, I closed early. I wasn't interested in anything big, no fancy dinner or big party. Instead, I ordered Thai food, pad see ew, spring rolls, and coconut curry, and invited 3 of my closest friends to hang out after hours. There were no candles, no drama, just the soft hum of conversation and the comfort of being around people who actually showed up for me. The lights were warm, the air smelled like ginger and garlic, and the laughter wasn't forced. It wasn't loud or fake, it was real. Just us, talking, sharing jokes, and being who we were. At one point, someone lifted their glass and said, "To people who show up." I clinked my glass against theirs, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. For once, the toast felt right. It wasn't just about them, it was about me too. I was finally the one who showed up for myself.